Hello everyone, this is Ketchup here again. It's been a while since my last little video covering something like this, and if you've been paying attention to the community tab, maybe you haven't, it's all good. I've been really busy with events and commentary as it is, what I do for a living, especially this year with the way things are. And I've been super busy. Quake Pro League, Dragon Temple, Open Series, it's kind of gone on and on and on, and my availability to make videos has not been as available, I think is the word we'll use, but this week is where I can start to get my schedule back a little bit. And the first video I'm going to make is another live one, because the intention of these videos and going over these moves is to basically, by the end of watching the video, you now have much more of an understanding on the move or variation in question than you did before. And if you're going to see it in tournament, you're not going to be wondering a bunch of questions, you already know what you're looking at. That's the entire direction of these videos in the first place. Those that watch the We Play Dragon Temple, this video is being recorded the Monday after. So yesterday we had the Championship Sunday, Tekken Master first place and Foxy Grandpa second place. Both of those players were using Sheeva in a slightly different way with their moves, but it was mainly Foxy that really just ran rampant with this Sheeva variation. And this video is covering not only this, the Dragon Stance, as it is the main move of the variation, but also what the variation is, the moves that have been added to the mix to make it one of the most devastating variations that we have seen in Ultimate so far. So, I'll try and keep it short and sweet, but let's get started. It makes the most sense to cover the basics of this Dragon Stance first. As you can clearly see, 4 fireballs. And using one of the different attack buttons will cause you to use, one of your hands to throw it. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4. For those that don't know 1, 2, 3, 4, I will cover it right now. 1, 2, 3, and 4, it is basically just the attacks. The 4 face buttons that you use to do attacks. And on either console, it is going to be X for 1, Y for 2, A for 3, and B for 4, because I play on Xbox pad. But for PlayStation, it's square for 1, triangle for 2, X or cross for 3, and then circle for 4. It's basically just a universal way of going over the moves, so that no matter what system you're on, no matter what controller you play, you just understand the terminology, right? It's pretty much as simple as that. It's been that way for many, many years. But the Dragon Stance, back forward 1, it replaces her base projectile, and as I've said before, she's able to throw a fireball in each hand, and each attack button will throw each of the fireballs. If you're paying attention to the top right, you will see that they actually combo if you throw them far enough, or fast enough, I think is more accurate, and it's 18%. For no meter, by the way, and if you're slightly off, as you can see, you don't quite get it, but 18% meterless off a single projectile starter is kind of insane. But it's not just the straight projectile she can throw. Holding down and pressing either of those buttons throws a low fireball. This one is a mid. This one is absolutely your preferred method if you're using up close or at any kind of, close to jump distance, because they can duck the regular fireball. They cannot duck the low version because it's a mid, but it retains the same properties. So doing it up close, it has the same hit stun, so you can still combo off it. Alternatively, you can throw upwards as well. This is specifically if you think the opponent's going to jump, and we have seen that in tournament. Let's just have him go movement, jump forward. So if I'm in my Dragon Stance and he jumps, you can anti-air him and pick him up. We even see like the first fireball be the anti-air, and then let me just quickly set this up. Bit hard to do in training mode, obviously. Real match is much easier, but you can pick it up with other fireballs. That's pretty much the point I'm trying to make here, is that, look, I've never seen all 4 hit as an anti-air, but you get at least 3. And the fact that Sheeva can press up to cancel her stance means that you can just cancel it anyway. So you go 1, 2, and then, whatever, cancel it, you're now back to a decent position. So it's up, straightforward, and then the low one, which is mid. This is not where it ends. I'm going to set him to just standing up again. You can amplify this. Amplify on its own. Cost of 1 offensive bar creates a slow-moving fireball. Now, this is insane for just, the neutral. As you can see, you can follow it. Very similar to like a reptile force ball in essence, really. And on block, if the opponent blocks this, let's just go block all. If I'm at a range, now one of the main applications we see is the slow into stomp. They block the fireball and then bam, here comes the unblockable stomp. So you kind of have to pick your poison in that respect. Some players do try and flawless block it, which I do thoroughly recommend if you can. However, just using it from a range, creating this, going in, boom, 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 we can now start to establish whatever you want. That could be a grab, that could be a mid, the classic Sheeva mix-up, if you will. And that's just one version of Amplify. You can press up and Amplify, which does this. You throw all of the fireballs that you're holding at the time. Pay attention to the chip. It's pretty insane. Just for one amplified move, it's almost 10% just like that. But you have to keep in mind how many fireballs you have. Up and amplify, I believe it should work. But she'll throw less depending on how many fireballs you have, basically. And that does apply for some of these amps. You know, if you have less fireballs and then you amp it, she'll throw the ones that she has left. It's not going to be the same every time, so you will need to micromanage that. The final amplify is down and amplify. The Pillar of Flame. We don't see that too much in competitive, but it's another option, and it's definitely worth covering because, again, as you can see, hits multiple times. Bang, bang. That was twice. And it's just another way of doing it. It's not something that we see a lot. A lot of Sheeva players, they prefer the up throw, or mostly it is all about the slow-moving fireball because, you know, it kind of just creates that free neutral, you know, and it shuts down some of the opponent's options depending on what character you're against. But that is the basic layer. Now let's talk about the kind of combo applications and how it's used in a real match. So in a real match, it is very much a good projectile option, as you can see. I mean, it recovers really quickly. It doesn't cost you anything. That is a major factor of this. Let me just set him to auto block real quick so we can really get a good idea of the damage. So full screen, if you throw this as a projectile, it's fine. You know, this is the absolute basic application, using it as part of zoning, and you can very much do that. If you're at close range, remember what I said, it's about the low fireballs because they become mids and they don't lose their ability to be comboed into each other. So that's really important. But if we're using it on block, pressure or combos, it's really good. Forward 1, a mid that belongs to Sheeva, an advancing mid that a lot of Sheeva players really haven't been using before because you don't get amazing options off it. Whereas if you do forward 1 dragon stance, if you actually time it correctly, you can actually combo off this. And there you go, 22% meterless, back to a range where I can do it a little bit more, you know, I can set up for the stomp, whatever the case may be, and forward 1 becomes a usable mid now, which is really good, because we get combos, it's safe on block, so you can do forward 1, and then bam, you know, we can start to throw these out, and this is the next layer I want to talk about. Doing anything on block, seeing it blocks, and then here comes the fireballs. You know, the chip's really good, loads and loads of pushback, and it's another option that you get. So the opponent has to kind of do something about this, and on hit, it will combo into itself. On block, they get pushed back to, again, you are at a safe range. I really want to emphasize one of the things that makes this so insane is that apart from amplifying it, this doesn't cost you anything, and this is a 1-slot ability. So you can give yourself heaps of utility on top of this, which just makes it a very dangerous combination. Using it on block, it's just the classic. You try and enforce any kind of mix-up. If they block it, bam, throw these fireballs on there, and it gives pushback, chip. If they get hit trying to interrupt or whatever it is, damage, and it's a really good situation. And we do see that already, right? We're in the neutral, press, you block it, here come the fireballs. I think you can interrupt, so I just cancel and go back to whatever game I want to do, and it isn't costing me anything. I can keep the onslaught going over and over again. Now, there is an extra element to this, and it is mostly when the fireballs actually hit the opponent. I have the frame data turned on. If I throw fireballs here, pay attention to how plus on hit it is. You know, it depends on the range, but the general rule is these fireballs are plus. That may differ, but right here, you know, +1, +2, it can be more. It doesn't sound like much, but considering we have a very fast forward 4, a 10-frame mid, a very stubby close range mid, but if we're in the corner and there's no pushback, this combos mid. Same situation again. Block. We get a mid into a fireball, right? You think I'm in mid? Grab, and it just continues to go. It is a mix-up entirely built on getting another turn because the opponent is they're left standing every step of the way. So this is definitely a scary position to be in, but we do have options. There's not a lot of options, and I'm going to go us back to mid-screen now because this is what I want to cover next. This is, make no mistake, one of the absolute best abilities in the entire game, but we are not out of options, and this is something I really want to emphasize. You need to go into training mode and look for your own solutions with your character, and playing Rain specifically, you know, this is the stuff that I've kind of grown to get used to, and it's important, and I may as well cover some of those solutions now. When it comes to dealing with this dragon stance, it looks incredible, and trust me, it is, but you do have some options on defense. What makes it so good, though, is that none of these options are set in stone. You have to introduce this next layer and show the Sheeva player that she can't just do any string that she wants and then just do Dragon Stance and that's it, right? You need to show them that you're not afraid to answer back, and by doing so, she might have to do other options that I'll go into in a split second. So the first thing, and I think the simplest thing, I want to shout out Raptor and Xazeez, two players that have very much made content about punishing this. I know that Raptor did a lot of different stuff, mostly about flawless block and stuff like that on YouTube. I'll link it. Xazeez has done a really good Twitter video going over this. I believe he only covers the back 1-2-2, but this is kind of the main string that Sheeva players use into this stance, and you know, that's one of the main applications, I think, is that back one. But I'm going to show off some of the stuff that I've got here with Rain. There we go. Doing a little bit too early there, which is, you know, it's whatever. But my whole point is that you can flawless block this, especially if she does it early. One of the things that a lot of players do is they really like to... So I'm delaying it a little bit now. Players really like to do the instant fireball, because opponents at this point, their kind of go-to is they try and interrupt, which I think in the recording I did the fireball a bit late, which obviously, you know, human error exists, so it will be an element to this kind of matchup. But players like to squeeze out a down one to force a turn, but as you can see, if I mistime that down one even slightly, we might trade, it might lose outright, I get comboed, I'm now negative, and the Sheeva gets to do more things. The flawless block is a much kind of like safer option to that. I'm really bad at talking and playing at the same time, unfortunately, but, you know, this is pretty much my point, is that flawless blocking this, it's like it's less risky than doing a down one or trying to press a button, and this is an option that works off every string that she has. If I go record, let's do another popular one, back to 1-1. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I'll try and block afterwards. Not that it matters, but let's say I've now blocked this string successfully. We can get flawless block up 2 again. Now, this might not be a complete guaranteed option depending on your character. I know that all up 2s have different ranges, startups, or whatever. But, you know, if I do an instant fireball, you can get the flawless block. And that was me again. I didn't release block quick enough, so I didn't get the frames to work with. You have to make sure you release block at a proper time to get this. But what I really need to emphasize is that this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's not super difficult or easy. You know, I don't really pride myself on flawless blocks, and I can get it pretty regularly. The entire point of this kind of solution on flawless block is that you have to kind of show the Sheeva player that she can't just do fireball straight away every time. The second you start to flawless block, the Sheeva player can simply just delay the fireball. But if she delays it, she creates a bigger gap in between the string and the fireball, right? Which means maybe I can press, maybe I can do something else. The entire point is you need to introduce those kind of next layers so the Sheeva player can't just do it without thinking. You need to make the Sheeva player actually think about it, and flawless block is one of those ways. A small little detail is Rain can use reversal timing to use his evaporate. This isn't, you know, you wouldn't do this every single time because, again, she could just cancel it and try and punish you or whatever. But using reversal timing, you are able to kind of get your evaporate on deck, which is pretty good for, you know, bypassing some of this. Obviously, as you can see there, she can just delay it and then, you know, she'll punish you on reappearing or whatever. But if you're, like, far away, she can't do much about that because she's pushed so far away here, there will be a gap. So let's go 1, 2, evaporate. I can go through and then, you know, we're good to go, and I've negated some of the chip. This is pretty much my point, though, is that every character, for the most part, will have some kind of solution. Flawless block does seem pretty universal here. And it's not that you're doing it to punish it every time, because a smart Sheeva will delay eventually, but if she delays it, you can then start to potentially do other things, and that is the important element. I don't want to downplay this move. This move is absolutely fantastic, but it does mean that players very much need to lab this, look into it, and study it quite extensively. I'm not releasing block there because I'm busy talking, don't worry. But the entire point is making sure the Sheeva player has to think about it. And that's kind of why it's a good move as well, because it forces you to play the next layer, even as simple as game 1. Like, you need to know how to deal with this move, otherwise it's going to completely shred you. The final thing I want to cover is actually the specific variation that Foxy was using in the We Play Dragon Temple that was so devastatingly powerful in combination with Dragon Stance. You know, this is, as I said, it's a 1-slot attack, so you can take 2 other moves, which is absolutely incredible, to be honest, and it is one of the things that makes it so ridiculously good. But let's talk about the moves and why it turns this variation into an absolute powerhouse. The first is the low scoop, down back 4. It's a low, which, as we know, Sheeva has back 2-1, has an overhead in it. Forward 2-1, has an overhead in it. Back to 1-1-2, has an overhead at the end. Any moment, you could go for an overhead, you can go for low scoop, you can amplify it for more damage and a debuff that gets applied where they get punished for moving, right, which does a lot of damage, which introduces the stomp, a move I haven't even needed to cover because it's universal. You know how good the stomp is in combination with everything else, and this is the mix-up element, right? So let's go for, back 1-2-2, low scoop, and that catches. You can amplify it if you want, the debuff, and it's good damage on its own. On hit, obviously, you wouldn't confirm into the scoop. You'd confirm into the next move I want to go over, the Death March. Back forward 3. This is specifically for if your button actually connects. They're trying to read a grab mix-up or something that you will be enforcing a lot in this variation. You hit that back 1-2-2. You can do back 1-2-2, Death March, amp, and then whatever. I don't really play Sheeva, so I'm not particularly amazing at those combos. I cannot do the forward 3 after that consistently, so I'm not even going to try. But my point is, let's look at this variation when it's absolutely complete. The Death March, when Foxy used it, kind of served a complete purpose of just being a combo option, right? So you do back forward 3, up, amp, and then back 1. I'm so bad at timing it. I don't think I really need to, though. It's not a huge deal. I don't even think I need to dash. Yeah, that just works on its own, but if there's not enough gravity, it whiffs. It's not really a difficult combo either, by the way. Sheeva player, you can do it, I'm sure you can. I'm not a Sheeva player, so it's all good. But my whole point is that, let's look at this variation on paper. So let's say I'm going to go for, let's say the opponent, he's on auto block, good. So I'm doing back 2. Let's say you've blocked the mix-up. Okay, I'm now going to Dragon Stance, right? So anywhere I want to apply a mix-up, if you block it, or whatever you block, I've got the Dragon Stance, right? So the Dragon Stance is good chip, pushback, fantastic situation. If I hit you, okay, I'm going to confirm into the Death March, and then do this. Which, by the way, the back forward 4 is her armor breaker. So if you try and break this, I get 40% in a combo on average. If you try and break and I end it in a KB. And because it's a special move as an armor break, if I hit you with this Death March, an instant break, the back forward 4 catches you. If, you try and delay it instantly, back 1 into it can catch you. The whole string. Being able to have an armor breaker that is a special that means there is no guaranteed escape from the anti-breaker, apart from just taking the damage, makes this, again, an incredibly powerful tool. So, again, the low scoop for mix-up to establish complete 50-50s if you want to go for it. The Death March, which is just a conversion tool. If you get a combo, you can amp this if you want to create the debuff anyway. It really doesn't matter because that has a debuff on it as well. And then, the meat and potatoes, the stance. This variation has armor break, it has combo conversions, it has block pressure that requires the opponent to thoroughly study the answer back. We have the mix-up, the 50-50s. The built-in stomp, which is a really good move on its own anyway. The grab mix-ups, which never went anywhere. Sheeva's amazing sweep. Her back 3, which if it counter hits a low poke, will crushing blow for about 30%, which is an overhead, by the way. The back 4, low, back 3, overhead. That's annoying enough as is. And now we have this. Now we have this. And now we have this. This variation is absolutely fantastic, and no doubt we will be seeing this in competitive play in due time. I guarantee it. Foxy just opened the floodgates as far as I'm concerned, and congratulations to him for a second place finish, but more importantly, Tekken Master for getting first place at the We Play Dragon Temple, a major offline invitational that just concluded yesterday, where it was Tekken Master and Foxy, the eternal rivalry just continuing, and 2 absolute world-class players. Great to see him back on the stage. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this has opened your eyes a little bit on why this variation is so good, and kind of the mathematics a little bit of the Dragon Stance, which is definitely a move that we're going to see a lot. Appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for your patience with me. Like I said, I've been crazy busy, and I'm going to have a little bit more free time this week. So, thankfully, I should be able to start some of my more traditional videos. Competitive history, up next. It's Ermac. Oh, who said that? Who said that? Definitely wasn't me. Tune in very soon for all this good stuff, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, take care, and peace out.